Okay, welcome back. This is Rum Tum. Oh, that was very brief.
Camera shy.
Rum Tum will be back to give us more entertainment at some point. But here we are in Liz's beautiful kitchen. Thank you so much again for having us. What a gorgeous little space. Very hot in this kitchen.
It's very hot in this kitchen.
Liz is having some heating issues, but I'm sure wine is only going to help with this. So if you are pouring yourself a glass, maybe do so now. Cheers.
Cheers.
And let's get started. What is up first?
All right. So first we're going to make the dough for the galette.
Very good.
For which we need the flour and the butter.
I'll just put that exactly in your workspace. Very helpful.
And the water, which I think I spilled most of it on the floor at this point. But, and then we need a little salt and sugar.
Interesting. Sugar in savory pie crust.
Yeah, I'm a really huge proponent of sweet and savory flavors together. And so I usually, I think I usually always put both salt and sugar.
I like it. I like that.
In my dough. So this is our flour. It's 2 3/4 cups of flour, or 235 grams. Is that what I said?
I think sure, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. You've got them listed somewhere. I didn't promise to remember the quantities.
No, indeed. I did not ask that of you.
And then this is our big hunk of butter. I'm also
Such a big hunk of butter.
do when I make a dough of anything, I usually do it by hand, because I don't have a mixer, and B, also because I can better control what it feels like, because I find with a sort of a pastry like dough like this, where you've got it's just butter and flour, you know when it's done by feel more than by amount of time spent kneading it.
So you just break the little bits off by hand and
so
start incorporating them.
Breaking off little bits of butter.
Is it quite important it's at room temperature before you start with this one?
No, and in fact the butter probably should have been a little bit colder.
Okay.
Than this, but it's also I'm also pretty loosey-goosey about the proper way of doing things. So I mean that's partly why I thought galette would be a really nice thing to make, because I think there's this sort of mystique about baked like crusts and doughs that feel like you must do it like this and you must do it like this, or else it will be ruined.
So specific and so exact with the methods.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's true.
Yeah. So we're rubbing the butter in just now.
Right, and so actually what I do is I kind of use my thumb and my pointer finger to kind of do this, like the show me the money, and just sort of like really loosely rub my fingers together, like this, to get the butter incorporated into the flour. So it's a pretty fast movement, and this is where it's easier to do if the butter is colder. Because it sort of crumbles a bit better now. Like I can feel that the butter it just wants to like make a patty instead of like sand. Because ultimately, when you've got the right consistency, it'll feel like a little bit like wet sand.
Okay, yeah. It's a very nice process, rubbing butter and flour together.
It's so soothing.
Quite satisfying.
And as I've started, I also realized I've forgotten to add salt and sugar.
Yay! Straight off the bat.
Straight off the bat. But I mean, like, I think it's also, it's really, I mean, I think this comes across also in my book, is that I think that in cooking, it doesn't really matter if you do something in the wrong order or you feel like you've messed up. It's really, very rarely is something unsalvageable.
Yeah.
So
that is very good to know and to remember and to hear from someone that is, probably the most professional cook that we've had so far.
Well, so about that, I definitely would not call myself a professional. I'm sure the real professional cooks are like rolling around in their either graves or not graves.
Maybe I'm saying more about the amateurs that I've had on so far. But, you know, you've got a blog, you've got a book, I mean, that's...
Yeah, but I mean, I think also it's... I cook because I love cooking, and because I love feeding people.
Yes.
And so it's the stories that surround the food that actually are what make cooking so interesting.
Which is the beautiful thing about that book, because it's not necessarily that it's more of a recipe book than it is a storybook, you know, it's sort of equal parts both. So we are going to add the sugar and the salt now, is that right?
Yes, technically you should add the sugar and the salt when you've just got your flour before you put the butter in. So, but I'm going to do it now, and I'll make sure it's all incorporated. And
everyone's doing it exactly like you're doing it.
So right now we're adding a tablespoon of salt, and we are also going to add a tablespoon of sugar. Right. And
then act like they were in all along.
All along.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. All right. So we're actually really almost at the consistency that we want.
Yeah, it's looking good and crumbly.
It's really crumbly, and this is probably the biggest size clump of butter that you want. It's pea-sized.
Okay.
So if you've still got bigger clumps than that, I'd probably just keep trying to pebble it a little bit more. All right. So now that I have this consistency,
Rum Tum is up to something.
Rum Tum's doing something that he surely shouldn't be doing.
He's like, I know that she can't tell me off right now. She's busy.
I'm going to take the water, and you might not need a full half cup of water, but I like to have it just because if you maybe have a little bit more flour than usual, or the butter is softer than usual, this is kind of maybe the trickiest part about making the dough, because you don't want it to be too soggy. Yeah. So I start by adding about 1/4 of a cup of water, or half the total amount of water if you're using metric. Yeah. And then very quickly, just using your hand to bring that dough together. And because you don't want to knead it too much, or else your galette will not be flaky. And that's what we want. And as I can see already, it seems that 1/4 of a cup was really all we needed.
Okay.
And my all right, let me get this off my hands and get all that good stuff here. And we're going to make it into a ball.
So what's the texture like at this point?
So
it's still kind of little cracks around the outside.
But it's soft. You don't want it to be any softer than this. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to stick it in the fridge right now while we work on the toppings for the galette. And so that will help that butter, which was a little bit soft to begin this process, firm up a bit. So now I'm going to clean my hands again.
Good. Yeah, it's messy work, kneading.
Messy work.
So even if people's butter doing it at home was colder, cooling the pastry is still a step that they would want to do.
Yeah, I mean, and if you have the time, you can stick it in the fridge twice. So once now, this I would definitely recommend sticking it in the fridge while you are not actively working it. But there's then, if you have the whole afternoon to make a galette, you can also, after you roll it out into a disc, you can put it back in the fridge for a little longer. But
what kind of difference does that make with the resulting product?
It is a little bit easier to work with when it's not as sticky. And mostly I found that that's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Is that it's easier to work with.
But in terms of texture,
and rolling out, and it doesn't stick as much to your surface.
Yeah.
So I'm wrapping it in plastic wrap, and I'm going to stick it in the fridge.
Very good.
And that's that. That's the dough.
Easy.
It's very easy. All right, so we're done with that. So now I'm going to preheat the oven, just so that has some time to get hot. And we're going to put it at 200 degrees Celsius, which I believe is around 400 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
All right. And I will prepare the mushrooms and onions.
Yum. I don't think we've had any mushrooms yet on Time to Cook, which, given that they're all veggie recipes, is quite surprising.
It is quite surprising. All right. I'm going to start with the onions because technically the longer and the lower heat you can use for the onions, the nicer they caramelize. And for that, I'm just going to use this saucepan.
That's a pretty one.
And probably cry a lot while I cut these onions.
I told somebody else that it's not unusual for me to put some swimming goggles on when I cut onions at home.
I did maybe one of my favorite Christmas presents, which I wasn't going to bring out, but I will. I have these onion goggles, which are really cute.
I need a pair! That is incredible!
Yeah, they've got sort of this like...
I mean, feel free to don your onion goggles right now. We're not there's no judgment here. I think that's the fantastic piece of equipment that I am going to be buying myself immediately.
They're really great. I did accidentally answer the door in onion goggles once, which is...
and as a bonus, you look like a superhero. So, like, there's just no downside.
There are no downsides. Zero downsides to onion goggles.
But I do find red onions tend to be a little bit milder on the eyes, right?
Yes. Yeah. But I just am so sensitive to onions.
Me too. It's a nightmare.
For a brief moment, when the journey of what am I going to do with my life, where I thought, well, maybe I'll be a chef and work in a kitchen, and I thought, yeah, but onions,
because it's not the kind of thing, like, you don't seem to be able to build up any resistance to them.
No,
it's just an endless struggle. So yeah, because of Germany's nice tendency to only provide you with really small onions, a lot of the prep time in Germany is peeling onions.
That's
a pain.
That's really true. And I find, I don't know if it's just the skin on the onions. It's just so hard to get it off.
Yeah, it is. So you're keeping what I like to call the tail end of the onion intact.
Yes.
In fact, you have a very nice little illustrative guide in your book about the best way to chop an onion.
Yeah. Which I'm going to save a very tiny bit of one of these red onions for the salad dressing. So I can cut the half of that onion the way very good the way that you teach people to cut that, because these, I imagine, are just going to go in as slices. Yes. Right. Yes. It's kind of the best caramelized shape. I also realized I probably should have sharpened my knife for this.
I imagine most people are dealing with not the best knives as well. This was a Christmas present from my mum, actually, was a knife block with proper knives, and that is going to revolutionise my cooking experience. I don't know how I've gone so long without investing in decent knives.
It changes everything to have a sharp knife.
It does.
I'm still trying to figure out how best to sharpen the knives.
Yeah, do you sharpen them?
I just
with
have.
Like one of
I mean,
those
I just
sticks?
have one of these little
That's what I have.
stickies.
You do feel like a kind of a musketeer when you're doing it, which is quite fun.
Yeah.
But I'm never quite sure how.
I don't know if I'm doing it right or
sort of wielding things and making a good noise.
But I love the idea of a knife sharpening stone.
How does that? Was that where you put it in and then you just go back and forth? No.
Well, they have those, but then they also have like the blocks where you do something fancy with your knife.
That sounds like you'd need even more like skill and method.
Right, and this little stick that I still don't know how to use.
I think I would laugh at that, but it sounds very pretty. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this dish, and can you remember the first time you made it or how you discovered it? I don't think I've ever even had a galette before, actually.
I want to say, actually, that the very first version of this that I made was a recipe from Smitten Kitchen.
What's Smitten Kitchen?
Oh, it's a really, really wonderful blog.
Ooh, good to know.
And her recipes are just like so well put together. And I think that her galette, I think it was tomatoes. It was sort of a summer tomato galette. And the galette that I knew was more of this like buckwheat crepe style sort of dish. And yeah, so I'd never heard of this before, but it looked pretty approachable. And I don't remember if I made her tomato version, but I know that after I made the first one, I was like, I think this is going to be a regular part of my of my cooking repertoire.
Well, that's going to feature quite a lot.
Because they look so pretty.
Yeah, because it's kind of like open topped, isn't it?
Yeah, and so, but it's really you can put anything you want in it. You can adjust it for the seasons. And I'm caught on that thing. And it's not very. Yeah, it's not hard. It looks impressive.
Yeah.
And
a good dinner party.
It's a really good dinner party dish. So
I'm looking forward to getting creative with my newfound galette skills.
So I think that was the first time that I encountered the recipe. But I think sort of my transformative galette moment was.
We've all got a transformative galette moment. Share yours in the comments below.
Changed my life when.
So we are moving on to slicing now.
Yes, I finally finished. Before I forget, I'm going to take this tiny little piece aside, and we'll do that later for salad dressing.
Okay, very good.
Was a day that I was walking home from work, and I passed a little vegetable stall, and they had these beautiful fresh figs. And I was like, I don't even know what to do with figs. And when I thought of this galette, and I thought, I could do honey and mascarpone and these figs and maybe some rosemary. And I guess like a lot of transformative experiences, that doesn't really sound like magical.
It sounds very magical to me right now. My stomach responded with a really appreciative rumble. Sounds amazing.
But it was just like, it was kind of this moment where everything clicked, where I was like, well, I have the skills to make this dough, and I'm passing this fresh fruit, and I have an idea that nobody told me to have about how to put it together. Yeah. And I think that's also why I love making a galette so much, because it's like nobody has to tell you what to do.
It encourages you to just explore flavors that you feel would go together without any risk of it going wrong, I suppose, in the end, right?
Right. I mean, you could be like, I want a hamburger, but I don't want to make a hamburger. And you're like, I'll just put a hamburger on a galette.
That one sounds a bit odd, though. I mean, you could do it, sure, but I don't feel it would have the finesse and appearance of the others.
I mean, if you
brown on brown. Yeah, because I don't really make my own pastry. I forget how it seems intimidating to me to make stuff like bread and pastry from scratch. But every time someone shows me how to do it or I try it, I'm reminded that it's not intimidating. It's simple and it tastes so much better than store-bought stuff.
Yeah.
And just gives you a really nice base for a lot of meals.
Right, and I mean, I think it also makes you feel like you've really accomplished something.
Yeah, I'm loving that you're wearing these goggles right now.
I've already forgotten that I'm wearing these really cute goggles.
All these very
I feel like
meaningful things you're saying.
They're mitigated by the goggles on my face.
A little bit. Yeah, because we've had someone on the show who made a curry and cooked some rotis with them. And breads, especially simple breads like that. It's ridiculous how easy it is. It's just, flour and water, basically. Mm-hmm. And then you just dry fry them in a pan and it's done. And I need to do it more.
I mean, so during the first lockdown, I was gifted a sourdough starter. And so I think
a lot of people going down the sourdough road.
I would definitely joined that pack. And I made not enough loaves to justify the maintenance of the starter. Right. But it was really remarkable to me how few ingredients are in sourdough.
Yeah. It has such flavour, sourdough.
Yeah. And it's just flour and water and salt. And that... Yeah, I really enjoyed the process of making bread. Yeah. But also I really appreciated, because I'd done some reading on like how to make sourdough, and there are a lot of websites that are just like, you must do this and you must do it at this temperature and you must do this, and I was like,
immediately puts me off.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. And then I found one site that was just like, it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna follow this recipe. This seems like a good one, and actually it turned out to be, very, very nice. That way. All right, so I've got my chopped onions.
Yes, a good heat.
I am going to use some butter, and I'm going to use some olive oil, and I am going to put those in my saucepan, and I like to do sort of half and half, so this is probably about a tablespoon of olive oil.
Yeah.
And my butter. Galette is nothing if not healthy.
I'm loving how much butter has gone into this already.
This is like an entire thing of butter, and probably around that much butter, which this is probably also a tablespoon.
Yeah.
And I'm going to heat that on medium-high heat, which I will then turn down.
Okay.
Once the onions go in.
Yeah.
I have been told that I cook everything on too high of a heat.
Oh, really?
But I blame it. The stove that I did a lot of cooking on was so bad. So you had to crank the heat up to 3. Well, because there was 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. So you had to crank the heat up to 3 to
they
even get it to
only
turn
gave
on.
you 3 options for heat.
Yeah. And so I was just like, well, turn it to 3.
Yeah.
And it's taken me some time to adjust to other stoves after having that one.
It is tough. You get very used to your own appliances.
You can cook things on medium heat and it will still cook.
But yeah, with caramelized onions, it's a must, right? A low-ish temperature for a long time is going to give you the result you want.
Right. And you can cheat with caramelized onions by putting a lid on it, and because even sugar is a cheat technically.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have any problems with cheating. So
no, if you get the result you want, then you might as well. just
what's there to
say that. I was like, you can apply that to a lot of situations, and that's terrible.
And cooking, only cooking.
Solely talking about cooking here. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than really putting the love in and doing it all naturally with the caramelized onions and then ending up with not very sweet or flavorful onions. That's so disappointing. So cheat all the way.
All right, so
moving on
to the mushrooms. I'm actually going to throw these shells away.
Yeah, how are you normally in terms of keeping the kitchen clean as you cook?
I try to keep it pretty clean.
Yeah.
But
I never know how much people are like keeping things clean because they're being filmed, or whether that's their normal way of cooking.
Well, I mean, I don't have a lot of counter space, and this is the biggest kitchen I've had in years. So, actually, I wrote the book on a kitchen with a workspace that was this size.
Really?
So that's why when people are like, my kitchen's too small to cook, I'm like, well, let me tell you something.
Yeah. I feel there's lots of space in this kitchen, especially because your table could kind of double up as at least someone to put a chopping board, maybe. Would you try not to?
I don't know. I never think of the table as a workspace.
It's not an option. It's a place for eating and enjoying.
It's a little low.
Yeah, true.
Although this table, definitely somebody very tall has like added these things to the bottom of the legs. And so I, who am not a very tall person, the table comes up to like mid-chest when I sit down.
You feel like a child when you're sitting
I still haven't gotten around to fixing the table, but every time I eat, I'm just like, it's so close to my mouth already.
I mean, that's handy. Like, that's not a bad thing.
All right, so the butter is melted in the oil. It's got some little sizzlies happening.
Little sizzlies. Good.
So I'm gonna add all of our onions. And my unprotected eyes are already watering.
I'm escaping. Maybe I'm hiding behind the camera really well. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. This is probably, half a teaspoon?
Yeah.
But
I would say maybe a little more. I don't know.
And about that amount of sugar.
A nice sprinkling.
A healthy sprinkle. And so this really beautiful spoon.
It's a hilarious spoon. Is there a story behind the spoon?
This belonged to my grandmother.
Oh wow!
And I loved that my grandfather still had it in a drawer, and he was like obviously not using it. But I loved that this spoon has been so used that most of it is gone.
I have never seen that happen to a wooden spoon before.
So I asked him if I could take it, and he's like, I don't need it. I was like, great.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I love this little spoon, which is great for doing things like caramelized onions. All right, so I'm gonna turn the heat down now to medium-low, which for me is of about a 4.
Okay.
And I'm just going to keep an eye on it while I'm preparing the mushrooms, because if I feel like it's starting to cook too fast on the bottom, I'll just turn the heat down a little bit.
Yeah.
So
definitely don't want them to be catching, charring during this process.
All right, so they can do their thing. Mushrooms. I also have no problem washing mushrooms with water, which I know is a little bit sacrilegious to some people.
Is it?
Yeah.
I always do that. What's the issue?
Well, so apparently, because mushrooms are so porous, they soak up the water, and then if you wash them with water, then they're waterlogged, and so then you basically have a lot of extra water in your dish.
Is that why people brush mushrooms?
Yes.
Right. I never quite understood the reasoning behind that. Also seems like a big hassle, to be honest.
It's a big hassle. And also, so there's some mushrooms that I won't wash with water because they do just feel really soggy afterwards. But I think grocery store mushrooms, like the champignons button mushrooms. Yeah. I think they hold up super well if being washed in water. So I read an article on the internet years ago.
Must be true.
That was like I looked up once many years ago and I'm like, that's obviously the truth. Because it agrees with what I'd like to do.
Yes, exactly. What you want to do.
That was like, well, we did an experiment and we compared water-washed mushrooms with brushed mushrooms, and the water content was minimal, so it's not worth the work. And I was like,
good,
great.
This is an opinion that is now fact.
Yeah. So to be fair, I haven't fact-checked that since then.
I mean, it's all about the result of food, isn't it? If it doesn't taste like you're eating watery mushrooms, which I've never experienced, then it must be fine. So have you made this particular filling before for a galette, or is this a whole new...
I have not.
Hey,
this is
nice.
a new experiment.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figure I should practice what I preach, and if I say I think it's all going to turn out okay in the end, why not?
This is great.
Why not film something that I've never made before?
No, it's very good because it's simultaneously a favourite recipe and a completely new recipe. You know? And I think especially for like newer cooks, people that aren't that intuitive yet, it's a really nice thing to know that you can just experiment and it will probably turn out okay.
You're right.
It's a good little mantra to keep repeating, especially in such times. It will all be okay.
It will all be okay. All right. So I am only cutting off about just a little bit of the bottom of the stem of the mushroom. And for the rest of it, I will just cut them in pretty thin slices.
Okay.
And mushrooms cook down a lot too.
Yeah.
But my guess is, we might have more mushrooms than will fit in the galette. And if that's the case, then you can always make omelets in the morning.
Yum.
Leftover mushroom onion bits.
But yeah, I think it is always quite surprising how much that quantity of mushrooms cooks down to. / quite disappointing if you don't have enough.
I know. I'm just gonna stir these. These are looking good. No one is burning.
So your grandma's wooden spoon, does she have any part to play in your culinary learning? Is that also meaningful because you cooked with her? Or?
Well, actually, so this spoon is from my paternal grandmother who passed away when I was relatively young. And so cooking is huge in my family, and especially from my maternal grandmother and my mother. I learned so much about cooking and about cooking for people. And so for me, it was this really beautiful moment to find a spoon from a grandmother who I don't really know that well, to see how used it is and how much cooking she did for her family, and to feel that connection even.
That's really nice.
Somebody who I have very few memories of.
Didn't have the chance to cook with or have those experiences with, but still kind of connected. So it was your maternal grandmother who was the big cook, or is it kind of everyone in your family?
I would say, I come from a family of people who like cooking and eating.
What do you feel about the word foodies? Apparently it's not
people get offended about being called foodies.
Yeah.
I think there are more important things to get offended about.
I also just didn't realise that it wasn't recognised as a nice term by a lot of people.
Well, I think it's it's one of those things where foodies, I think, because it can be tied with pretension, where someone is like, well, what's wrong with my grilled cheese sandwich? And why isn't it okay? Why do I need to use this type of cheese? Or what is it okay if I don't have prosciutto and fig jam in there?
The answer, of course, is no, it's not okay.
You must not love food if you just have Swiss cheese and bread. Clearly you're doing something wrong. Yeah. So I mean, I think foodie started off as a positive thing.
Yeah.
But then people started feeling like their food loves were looked down upon.
Right.
And they're like, well,
screw you, foodies.
Yeah. Maybe it's like I don't know if that. Well, it's just. I was going to make a comparison. I have no idea if it's accurate or not. So I was like, should I say it?
Yes, say it forever, and
it's like it's like the normcore of food. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it's out there now.
Make it work.
Yeah. Who is this guy?
Steve.
That is Steve.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. He doesn't strike me as a Steve so much.
Yeah, no, actually, he also is a family heirloom. I think it's a gingerbread mold.
Really?
Or a giant, what are they called? You know, the anise cookies? Springele.
Oh, no way.
So it's either a giant Springele mold or a gingerbread mold.
That's incredible, because I was thinking, like, it's not really very practical as a chopping board. You know, you get all in Steve's creases.
Yeah, so, but I like him here because...
He's very good there. Quite stately.
Yeah.
Overseeing your cooking.
I think he lends an air of gravitas to whatever you do.
Do you feel a little bit under pressure cooking in front of Steve all the time?
Oh, but he looks so... Well, he does actually look pretty grim.
He does look, yes. He really looks like he's...
He looks like you're doing it
looking
wrong.
down on you. Yeah. I'm going to go back to my little corner over here.
Okay.
Feel more out the way.
Alright. I'm going to transfer my... Ooh. And pour out some water. I'm just going to switch these so that I have more space on my cutting board.
I did. So tell me a little bit about the blog and how that came about, when you started it and what drove you to start it.
So actually I started it in 2009 as part of a class project.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was doing an independent study on food writing. It was my last year at college, and the blog was sort of this to mark the journey about like the kinds of things that I was reading, and so I mean, some of those first entries are it's very clear I just have no idea what I'm doing. It's like I think one of them is like 5 thoughts about wine. I was like, I know nothing about wine. I was like, I googled some stuff and put together this article, and I was like, this must be what a food blog is.
You know, we're all going to be going to read the early articles now based on
They're
this.
pretty special. But I started it with a friend of mine. So we were doing this independent study together, and so the early posts, I think for the first year and a half we were doing it together. And after college, I moved to New York, so I wasn't getting graded on the blog anymore. And at some point, I'd figured out that it's much more interesting for everyone if I don't write about things I know nothing about. And it sort of became this way for me to chronicle what I was experiencing or what life was like for me, sort of living on my own for the first time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've always been drawn to food, and maybe even food writing before cooking. So for me, it just felt really natural to express myself through food. And actually, so I have this at my fridge to remind me of the humor of all of my endeavors. It's an epic tale of love, loss, and the human condition, and it will accompany my online recipe for chicken cacciatore. So that's
very good.
This sums up my blog. No, but I mean, I think so. The blog has always been more of a place to tell stories and to think about life, love, loss, and the human condition than it is about chicken cacciatore.
But that's really what food is for everyone throughout their lives. You know, it is that accompanying factor to the lighter stuff and the bigger stuff, and I think that's what people respond to as well with food writing and that approach to talking about food. It's so intrinsically connected to us as people and our experiences.
And I mean, it says, I think, what we eat and how we eat it and when and who with says so much about who we are and where we are in life. And I don't really know why this is the lens that I tend to gravitate towards when I think about what's happening around me, but it felt very natural for me. And so even when I was in New York, I was like, well, I guess I'm still writing this blog.
Well, that's usually a sign that it's the right thing to be doing, isn't it? If it feels natural and like more natural to keep going than to stop, then and that's usually what other people also respond to. Yeah,
and so I moved to Berlin, and I was like, I still want to keep writing this blog, and so it's been now over 10 years that I've been writing it.
Whoa, it's only just clicked that 2009 is
over 10 years ago. I know.
Back to the cooking a little bit. So we've put a big frying pan on the hob.
And I've got it on relatively hot, so I've got it on a 7, which is, medium high, veering towards high.
Yours go up to 10, do they?
Mine go up to 10, yeah. So I'm going to put the mushrooms in without anything in the pan.
Oh, okay.
And this is also, it has to do with the water content that's in the mushrooms anyway.
Yeah.
So the idea is, because the mushrooms have a lot of water, you put them in a hot pan without any oil or butter, and you let them soften because they'll exude a lot of water. And once the water evaporates, then you add your fat, and then the fat actually gets trapped in the mushroom instead of evaporating.
Right.
So you don't have watery mushrooms.
Interesting. Very good tip.
It's also from the internet. So
thank you, internet. We're going to do a little behind the scenes check of the audio recording.
Please fact check me.
No, not of that. I want to make sure that we're still recording your voice. Oh wait, but we're adding some.
Oh, I'm adding some salt.
Salt first. Okay.
Just to taste. It's probably about 1/4 of a teaspoon.
Mm-hmm.
And we might add more later, but we'll just start it off there and see how we go.
Yeah. So can we check the audio recording just quickly and make sure that I have upped my technological game for 2021, guys, but hey, we're still going.
Looks like it's going.
Very good. I'll get you to do that probably
again. If I click out of it,
just
will
click
it go away?
It will keep going. That's fine.
Okay.
I hope. It's all on the fly, it's fine.
No, yeah.
So the mushrooms are starting to make a sizzly sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Right. So I'm going to let these go for a while. The onions are still looking good. They're starting to soften.
Okay. Take a little visual. Nice and translucent.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
And then we have a little bit of downtime because I don't want to roll out the galette dough just yet. Because if I do that, it'll soften too much by the time the mushrooms are done.
Okay.
So, I think
time to sip wine.
It's time to sip some wine. Hear more of my theories about cooking from the internet that have become real fact by now. Put away some of my dishes.
That's true. That's probably what people are going to want to do themselves. And good time to show people your beautiful kitchen. It's very pretty.
Plus the one unfinished piece of wall that I am too short to finish painting by myself.
I didn't even notice it because it looks like just a continuation of the white window.
That's been on my to-do list for some time. But usually when I have tall people here, I don't remember that I have painting to do.
Well, I didn't even notice you had painting to do. It's all good. Yeah, very, very pretty kitchen. So do you think you cook most nights a week, or do you succumb to the Berlin temptation of quite cheap takeout and readily available food? How many kebabs do you have per week?
I love a good kebab.
Yeah.
But I can't eat that many of them because it's just they're pretty intense, and it's a 2-day commitment because you've got the onions, and then the next day you're just going to smell like raw onions.
No, I started asking for it without, which I feel is a little sacrilegious, but I just can't take the lingering effect. It lingers too long.
It hurts, but I can't eat it without, and so I know that the next day is going to be
an onion write-off.
An onion write-off. But actually, I think I cook probably 3 to 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
And then I love leftovers, so I try to make enough that I have leftovers.
Yes.
For the other nights. I don't eat out so much, especially now. I definitely did before the lockdown. Because I love eating out. I love sitting in a restaurant, and I love like the vibe of being
the whole atmosphere
out somewhere. But when it's takeout and I'm eating it in my home, often I'm just like, is this better than what I can do?
Yeah.
And so
it's usually then just the luxury of not having to do it. But it's often not worth it from the actual eating perspective.
Right. Well, and like the cost perspective. So for me, it's just like, because then you've spent money on something and you're like, but I could have done it better, and I didn't want to. Yeah. So I love frozen pizza. So
that's one of my absolute guilty pleasures. What's your go-to?
I actually just like the pepperoni. The American style pepperoni. So just the salami, and then I add Japanese mayonnaise and sriracha.
What is Japanese mayonnaise?
Oh my god, it's so good. It's this where is it? This Kewpie mayonnaise.
Oh.
You can
never seen that.
Everything.
And it's got a double nozzle. What does that even mean?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's really good.
Very good to know. Okay. Yeah, I usually go for the ristorante mushroom with fresh rocket arugula on top and Parmesan shavings. Yeah. And lots of fresh ground pepper.
I also like the spinach one.
Yes, the spinach one is also very good. Yeah. Let's just pack this in now. Pop a few frozen pizzas in.
It's alright. If this ends up being awful, I've got a couple in the freezer.
Yeah, that is one of my main go-tos. And just pasta all the time. I probably eat too much pasta, but
my go-to pasta dish is also, it's great because you can have literally nothing but pasta. It's just garlic and anchovy.
Ooh, nice.
So like garlic, anchovy, caper, and then I make a little sauce with that, and then just put the pasta in there with chili and a little bit of olive oil and Parmesan.
This is so good because I have like a jar of anchovies and capers that have just been getting more and more sad looking at the back of my fridge for a really long time. I'm going to do this.
I think anchovies are really, really underrated.
They're fantastic.
Sort of like a hidden ingredient in things.
Oh, they're so good.
So
just to add,
salty and
so like, flavoursome.
And you can't tell that it's fish.
Yeah.
So like, because I know people are like, oh, I hate fish. I don't like this fish taste. And I'm like, well, I just won't tell you that I've put a lot of anchovies in here. Maybe do you like it?
You all know now. Yeah, because I mean, they're an ingredient in so many things you wouldn't think. Like in classic Caesar salad dressing, they're in the dressing, aren't they? But yeah, you don't get that fishy flavour from those things at all.
Right.
Flavour makers, that's what they are.
There is in my family this, I think I would call it the family dish. It's called bagna, and it's anchovies and butter and garlic, like melted in a vat. So it's just a vat of butter and anchovy and garlic. And
where's the name? What's the name?
So technically, technically it's an Italian dish called bagna cauda.
Okay.
But in my family, I grew up calling it bagna cara. So
giving it almost a Spanish twist.
So, you know, take that as you will. But it's sinful, and you eat it with cabbage. So you like take cabbage leaves and you just dip it in this like butter, garlic, and
too hungry to be talking about this right now.
And then like your plate is a piece of white bread. It's just
yes,
it's so good.
Your plate is a piece of white bread.
And then you eat your plate at the end. It's really but it's like
genius.
I mean, when you talk about like your next day is done. I mean, it's like a family rite of passage.
Is this a special occasion thing, or is it just like
it's a special occasion thing? And like we go nowhere the next day.
Right. Very jealous, and I want to be involved in one of those events.
All right, so these mushrooms, you can still see sort of the remnants of the water, which is like almost finished evaporating now. Like a few seconds ago, there were still some puddles here at the bottom of the pan, but like once it's here where it looks pretty dry, now I know all the water is gone, so now I'm going to add olive oil and butter.
Nice.
And
why break with a winning concept?
Why break with a winning concept? I will maybe do slightly less butter.
Nope.
And just a splash of olive oil. I will also add some ground black pepper.
Yes. Peppery mushrooms are just the best. Oh, that smells good.
It's the butter.
And the mushroom. I can smell the mushroom. Just. So your family, where are they based at the moment?
So my immediate family is in the south central Pennsylvania, northern Maryland region. But my extended family so my dad is from Germany, so his family is all in the Stuttgart area.
Ah, nice.
And my mom is from Florida. And so, I mean, at this point the family is pretty scattered, but my grandpa still lives in Orlando, as does my brother.
Right.
So, yeah, so I would say, and when I think of bagna cauda, my first thought is Orlando. So,
okay.
Because that's where we eat it mostly. So I would say Florida is it's where a lot of the families do.
Do you see your German family much? Are you close with the extended German family?
Yeah.
It's really nice to have family members in the country when you've moved so far away. You know, it's that slight connection to home still.
Yes. Yeah, and I would say, I mean, both sides of my family are super family oriented. And so it was really nice growing up in such a such a family oriented environment that it almost sort of counterintuitively felt really fine for me to move to Germany, so like super far from where my parents live, because I was like, I grew up with neither of my parents living close to their parents, but us spending a ton of time with our grandparents, and so I was like, well, then it's fine to like move really far away because you make an effort, you make the time to see your family.
It work. Yeah.
So
it does make more of an event of it in a way. When you see them less often and you have to travel such distances to get together, then it's like always a really nice special event to see each other, which is lovely.
I have finished these mushrooms.
Yes.
So, no, I haven't. I'm adding cream.
Oh! I love how we forgot about the cream in the ingredients video,
like, maybe
and then
it just
almost
doesn't
again.
want to be there. I guess I'm not going to add a lot of cream because I don't want the galette to get too soggy. So I didn't even give a measurement for the cream because I don't yet know how much it's going to be.
Okay, I'm just going to
eyeball it. We're just going to eyeball it. I think I think that's all I'm going to do. And that is probably about a tablespoon to 2 of cream.
Sort of covers half
it's
the pan.
Sort of, yeah. And I want it to mostly evaporate or for the mushrooms to soak it up because if your galette is too soggy, then the dough gets soggy and then you have a soggy galette and nobody wants that.
No one wants a soggy bottom.
No.
So this is just sort of adding a creaminess to the mushrooms.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just like another layer of fat. And fat
perfect.
makes everything taste better, so...
It's winter. We're still putting on our little layer of flump to get us through the cold times.
All right. I'm also going to taste this.
Very important. Yeah?
That's quite good. All right, now I'm done with the mushrooms.
Okay.
I will put that here. I will check on our onions, which are looking lovely.
They are looking lovely. Nice pink colour.
And in fact, I think I would be satisfied with that because they're going to spend another 40 minutes in the oven on the galette. So they'll keep cooking. Let me just try it for sweetness.
Because you haven't done the sugar cheat yet.
I did put a little sprinkle of sugar.
Oh yes, we did. I forgot that. Verdict? Could be sweeter?
Could be sweeter. Yeah.
Somehow these are such festive flavour combinations to me. I'm trying to figure out why while you've been cooking. I think we used to make little like tartlets maybe as sort of festive nibbles. But definitely the smells are really evocative of Christmas.
It smells like a holiday.
Yeah. I think with that much fat, it's got to be a holiday.
Well, you know, I mean, I haven't made this before, so I wanted to make sure it tasted good, and I figured the surefire way to do that was to just cook with...
Keep adding fat.
Keep adding fat.
Yeah,
and so
that's what I would say.
All right, so we are now ready to roll out our galette. Make sure that I did actually turn the oven on.
That would have been a good moment to realize.
I do that a lot. I'm like, let me preheat the oven, and then it turns out I've only turned one of the knobs instead of both of the knobs.
Oh, there's two that you have to turn the oven on.
Yeah.
Oh, because you have to do the setting and then the temperature. Yes.
I don't know what any of the settings are except the one with the top and the bottom.
What other setting options do you have exactly? You've got a fan setting there.
Oh, which
one's
that?
Do you not use that? The one with the fan on?
Nope.
I've just been staying somewhere with a fan oven for a few nights, and talk about getting used to your own appliances and not really factoring that in when using something new. Because I think my oven runs quite cool, so I'm used to putting it a good 50 degrees higher than what the recipe would say I would need to put it on. And I managed to burn most of my dinner the first night because I was like, oh, fan oven, lovely. And then 200 degrees is actually pretty hot, it turns out. Not in my oven.
All right. So.
The dough is chilled.
And like I said, you can chill it longer. Like it doesn't harm it to stay in the fridge for a longer period of time, and you can even chill it again. Like I would say this is maybe even a bit soft.
Okay.
But
it's probably fine. Like I imagine most people's butter would have been coming out the fridge to start, so probably for people cooking along it would have been a bit colder.
Yeah. I also don't have a rolling pin. This is my rolling pin.
Very good.
Yeah, I know. Of all of the things,
But it does bottles do the job so well. It's almost unnecessary. Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's take this out, which I also definitely could have done earlier. And get that ready.
Is that because you don't really want to be putting it on a hot baking tray?
It sure is.
Right.
But I'm doing all of this on purpose so that you can see that even though the internet tells you all the things you shouldn't do, it'll be okay if you do.
Yeah. It's good to remind ourselves.
All right. So we want to divide this into 2. And I like to work with plastic wrap for this also, just because it helps with the stickiness.
What is this a bottle of? Oh, that's that aperitif, isn't it?
Yeah.
That I've never tried.
Well, you're welcome to try some of my rolling pin.
Maybe I will.
All right, so just lay out a sheet of plastic wrap and put one of the lumps of dough and then sort of roll it out into a rough disc. And I will put another piece of plastic wrap on top.
So you just kind of pat it out to start with and then sandwich it.
Yep. And if you don't have plastic wrap, you can also do this with flour. But the dough, because it's a pretty sticky dough, it could tend to come up off and onto the rolling pin, which is annoying.
Not ideal.
So I'm just going to roll this out.
And what sort of thickness are we going for here?
Well, I think, let me see if there's a practical way. I measured the actual thickness for the book, but it was like, does this mean anything to people? And who stands here with a ruler measuring
because
it?
no one, exactly. I never really know. Yeah, right down.
So pretty thin, because you want it to cook all the way through. Yeah. And you don't want any sort of soggy dough bits, and especially when we've got fillings that have butter and oil in it, that's going to sort of work its way into the dough. Yeah. And you don't want that to get all right. And if you might have to move the sheets of plastic wrap just to get it rolled out evenly, and ideally you're going for a circle, but if it's not a circle, it's okay. It's really okay. All right, that's about the thickness that we want. Okay. And I don't know, what would you say?
I am the worst person to ask.
The thickness of a piece of cardboard?
Yeah, a thick piece of cardboard. Is it 1/2 centimetre?
I wish I knew.
Yeah, who can say? Make sure yours looks like this. We've been very helpful with that part. If you've got it about that size, then it will be about that thickness, because we've made the same amount of dough, so...
Right. And I think I might just tear this piece off, because this got a little much, and add it here. Now it's a circle.
Magic.
Beautiful.
That's good that it sticks together nicely.
All right, and you know what I might do? Actually, since I did keep that hot, I think I will just stick this back in the fridge while I roll out that other piece of dough.
Very good.
To keep it chilled. And now we will do the same with our second one.
Onions good?
Onions look good.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are missing that sort of cooking for people at the moment and having big dinners, you know? Is that something that you used to do quite a lot before Corona came along and ruined our lives?
Yeah. Mildly put. Yeah, no, I mean, I love cooking for people. And it's been hard not being able to just have friends over to cook for them. But I've had my Corona bubble. I'm lucky that one of my brothers lives in the city as well. And so
nice.
Yeah, so between my brother and sister-in-law and my boyfriend, we have this like small Corona bubble, and all of us are big cooks. So well, look, I did a thing I told you not to do.
You did. You know what? I saw it coming, and I was going to say something. It's like,
and you didn't. No, you didn't do it. I was so busy telling a story that I forgot to put my plastic wrap back on. Well, look, don't do it, because this happens.
That's what happens.
That's what happens.
Now we have.
Now you know.
Visual proof.
But yeah, so it's been really, really fun to like also just have sort of a regular dinner party crew where we've been experimenting with lots of different cuisines and recipes, and
because everyone is more free, it's easier if you've got that small group of people at the moment to keep meeting on a regular basis, isn't it?
Right. Well, because then you say like, okay, well then we are the people we see, and so it's been really lovely, and so when I think of like how things could have gone, I think I've been extremely lucky to have like, you know, especially this group of people that I can you know, like meet and cook with.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in normal circumstances, it's
just a given. But
I love dinner parties.
Yeah.
So.
How long has your brother been living in the city then? That's really nice to have a family member here.
Yeah, he moved here very shortly after I did.
Oh,
so
nice.
This will be my 10th year in September. And and I think he's been here also 8.5 years.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That really adds to the sense of it being home, even when you're far away. This one looks good.
Yeah, I think our onions are done, so we're going to go ahead and fill these galettes. This is not so hot anymore. All right. I'll take this here. All right, and to fill it, the important thing is just to remember that we're going to fold the edges over.
Okay.
So I am
leave
going
lots of room around the edge.
Yeah, to leave some spot around the edge. And we've also got this goat cheese. And my question is, will it be nicer to dot the top with goat cheese or to put the goat cheese on the bottom?
A difficult question.
I know.
I feel like if goat cheese gets a little bit browned, that's a very good thing.
I am leaning towards dotting it on the top.
Yeah, let's do dotting on the top.
Because I think that will look nice with the parsley on top. All right, so now we've got half of our onions.
Yum, yum, yum.
Half, yeah. And we're gonna spread this out.
They're making a very good jammy sound.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do go quite close to the edge. It's not such a massive border.
Yeah, that's about an inch, I think.
Yeah.
And half of our mushrooms.
Yeah, and really, look, they've cooked down so much. We probably will use them.
I think we'll use them all.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that's about half. I think so. Oh. And now, use this I'm just going to take little spoonfuls of the goat cheese.
So this is quite a creamy goat cheese.
It's a very creamy goat cheese. Which is why you can also spread it on the bottom of the tart if you want. But I also think when you've got these colors aren't, necessarily the most vibrant or beautiful colors. So it's nice to get a little bit of variation for the eye on the top. Definitely. If you can.
Beautiful. Oh, I've not had goat cheese in so long.
Okay, I think that's good.
Looks good. A little bit left on your finger for eating.
The most important bit.
Yeah.
All right. And now we're going to fold over the edges of the galette just like this so that it's open in the middle. There's really, I like to have a nice little edge here so that you're thinking about it as a fan, would you say?
Yeah, I see that. So you are going over the filling a little bit.
Yes, you definitely want to go over the filling a little bit, or else your filling will fall out.
Yeah. What's so pretty?
So that's our first little galette.
Gorgeous.
Now we're going to take our second piece of dough. I'm going to put her here.
So it doesn't matter if they're a little bit smooshed together.
No, it doesn't. They're not going to expand at all.
Yeah.
So. And we do the exact same thing with the second piece. So hungry. I'm also really hungry now.
I wish they didn't need so long in the oven. Have you been finding that you've been experimenting more in Corona times? That you've had a bit more time and lust to get creative in the kitchen? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I've been really on a sort of like a sort of pan-Asian, so lots of Korean, lots of Japanese, lots of Chinese.
I saw a picture you'd cooked like a massive sushi feast.
Oh yeah, last night we made sushi. So I've been really, it's a cuisine that I have not really experimented with a lot, and so it's been fun to learn new things.
Yeah, I would say the same. That's an area that I don't really understand the flavors, so I certainly don't feel comfortable and like getting creative myself with it because I don't understand the basics.
I'm definitely not at the getting creative with it myself level yet.
Learning the
but just like because there's so much of it is technique as well, which is a hard thing for me because I would say I'm like a pretty irreverent cook, and when somebody says, "Well, do it this way with the cucumber," and you're like, "But why?" I don't need to.
Yeah.
And so much of it's like a recipe with 3 ingredients. And you're like, I guess it's important that I put the salt and the sugar in this order and then wait 10 minutes and then rinse it.
It's more precise, huh?
Yeah, so, but I'm not far enough along yet to say like, well, I know why that happens and so I know what difference it makes.
I'm folding this one.
Folding.
They really look so pretty when folded up. I love it's basically you just get like a peek into the pie, Yeah. Whereas in the UK it would be covered and that would be that secret. Here it's like you can see what you're getting.
All right, so we're gonna stick these in the oven now. I will be putting some parsley on, but I don't want that to cook for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking these in the middle. If you have a smaller oven, I would say more towards the bottom.
Okay.
The top, but middle is fine. You just don't want them too close to the top rack. And they need to be in there for 40 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm going to set a timer because if I don't, I will burn them.
I've got a little constant timer going here. Good time for you. Actually, no, you set a timer. I would not trust myself with that.
If I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I won't forget it. Yeah. I forget it every single time I say I won't forget it. So I'm just going to set this for first for 30 minutes, because at 30 minutes I want to put the parsley on. So
this has been one of my favorite things about cooking to these videos, is not having to set any timers or worry about time, because the other person's doing that for you. It's very relaxing.
All right. So while that's in, just going to make a little side salad.
Yes, the delicious winter salad.
Go along with that. And I would also say, so basically the salad is more or less composed of things that I found in my fridge today.
You have a very varied selection of things in your fridge. If I was to go into my fridge and be like, what do I find? It would be that old jar of anchovies and some stale milk.
Part of it is because I've been subscribing to a veggie box.
Ooh.
And
which one?
The Ete Potato.
Oh, I don't know that one. I've just seen the good box stuff everywhere.
Yeah, so it's like veggies that wouldn't get sold otherwise. And so it's like I get it twice a month and I never have any idea what's in it. And so that's why, but like sometimes you get weird quantities of things. That's like one beet. I'm like, what will I do with one beet?
So in general, would you recommend it?
I would definitely recommend it in general.
I'll put a link to it in the bottom.
Because it's all bio. It's all bio quality. The flavor so far is really excellent of the veggies that I've gotten. It is sometimes, I would say sometimes you get things that you're like, I don't know what to do with this. Because the quantity is strange, or you're like, I really don't want to eat celeriac again. But like, for the most part, I've been super, super happy with it. I would recommend it.
I find it does aid creativity when I have some restrictions. So if someone's telling me you have to use these ingredients in something, that can help sometimes. Otherwise, I feel a bit overwhelmed with the endless choice.
I really like that, because then I have made some things that I would never have made otherwise, because I'm like, I hate throwing food away. Yeah. And so then you're like, well, I have black radish. I didn't know that existed before.
Me neither.
Now
what
I do.
Is black radish?
It's really it doesn't look like a thing you should be eating. It's just it's like this ball that's covered in this like scaly pitch black skin.
This is so weird. I don't think I've even seen this before.
Yeah, I had not either until I got it in the box, and I was like, well,
guess I'm eating black radish.
Guess I'm eating black radish now. So I roasted it with like an olive oil, miso, garlic, and they were phenomenal. Yeah, which I never would have purchased or thought to cook black radish.
A scaly black vegetable.
No. Definitely no. But it's also, because they send me a lot of turnips. No, not turnips. Like just regular radishes, like daikon radishes. Okay, yeah. And I also, there's only so much radish you can eat.
Yeah, not sure what I'd do with that either, other than pickling it.
I have been pickling it. So I've gotten soup. I've been fermenting radishes.
Ooh,
they're
nice.
Delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, that is something I would like to get into. Pickling. I think that could become an obsession in later life.
So as far as because the sourdough is also a type of fermentation, but as far as the fermentation things go, pickling is really is I think my favorite, just because you can pickle anything.
That's exactly the kind of thing that starts an obsession, isn't it? Sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, you're like, can I pickle this?
Can I ask you to check the sound again?
Yes.
I'm so paranoid that's going to stop on us, and that would be a bit of a disaster. I might have to put a code in this time. Yep. Oh no, here it goes.
Looks like it's still working.
Well done. Device. Love it when technology works.
All right. So, for the salad, I don't have any specific measurements in mind, but I would just say for two people, I'll try to eyeball it for 2 people.
Yeah.
And I guess I mentioned this in the ingredients video, but basically when I put together a salad, I like to add crunchy ingredients and colorful ingredients, because I think that salads that are just lettuce eventually get really boring.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't want to eat salad, but salad can be a lot more interesting than just lettuce.
Yeah.
So...
But that said, we do have here lots of lettuce.
We do have here lots of lettuce. I'm not going to use all of that. And I think I will wash it.
Yeah, do you generally wash your salad ingredients? I feel that's quite a personal thing. A lot of people don't.
I do, but I also...
The salad spinner!
I love it.
This has come up so many times so far about people being like, wish I had a salad spinner, wish I had a salad spinner. Here it is.
It's really magical. I finally bought myself one after years of saying I wish I had a salad spinner. I was like, just buy a salad spinner.
And you've never looked back?
I've never looked back. No. It's a pain to wash, but...
Yeah, that's true. I can already see how that would be an issue.
Okay. So I think for 2 people, we'll just do two smallish handfuls of mixed salad greens, or any kind of greens. And yeah, but about washing things, I always feel like better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the States where you should really just wash all the things. So,
especially when you have a salad spinner, otherwise it can be
when you have a salad spinner.
I usually end up taking like handfuls and putting it in a kitchen towel and then like shaking it and having to do that 3 or 4 times before it's dry. It's a pain.
Yeah. All right. So.
That's the trick, isn't it? It's getting a head start before like the lettuce dries on it, because then you're doomed.
Yep. Well, and also, so part of my problem, and this is also getting back to your question about like, do I clean as I go, is that this is the only drying rack I have, and I don't have a dishwasher. So if I wait, then they don't all fit in the drying rack. So.
We have a dishwasher that doesn't really work, so we use it as a drying rack, which is great, actually. A drying rack that shuts away.
That's very nice. I don't like dishwashers, which I realize is, I don't know, like contentious evil.
You're gonna get so much hate mail now, about not liking dishwashers.
Should I like a dishwasher? Well, I guess people are just like, why wouldn't you want one? But I had the opportunity to have a dishwasher put into the kitchen, and I said no.
Oh, interesting. An interesting choice.
Yeah, I have a thing, like, I hate that your hands get dirty as you're loading the dishwasher, and then they're just dirty for a sustained period of time. And then when you reopen it, and they're dirty dishes that you haven't finished washing, it's just...
Yeah, they cause some problems, that's for sure.
So I just, I prefer to just wash them by hand, and they're all clean. All right.
So we're starting
with some endive.
It's a very bitter flavour that took me a while to get into, endive, but now I'm all over it.
There's a recipe that I've been meaning to try that's just like endives roasted in butter, which sounds...
On board.
I haven't done it yet.
More butter.
More butter. So as you can see, like, I'm not putting in a ton. It's mostly just for the color contrast, and then because it'll have a little bit of bitterness and bite. So there's just, and eventually when you add a little bit of everything, it's like then you have a whole salad.
Yeah.
All right.
Another very bitter flavour.
Another very bitter. This came in my veggie box.
Ah, nice. So good for you, chicory, right?
And because it is so bitter, I also want to chop it pretty finely so that you don't get any like huge bitter bites.
Yeah.
Put that in there. Okay, and that's about
beautiful.
As much as that is. Yeah. Fennel is one of my favorite things to put in salad. So
yeah, I had an issue with aniseed flavour for a while, which kind of made me think I wouldn't like fennel, but not just eating it on its own in a salad or roasted with fish. I mean, there's so many ways to prepare it where it's really good.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess of all of this other stuff that's not lettuce, I'm cutting about the same amount, which is just a handful.
Yeah.
I'm putting that in. Okay, and I've got some kohlrabi here.
What is that called outside of Germany?
Kohlrabi.
Is it still called kohlrabi?
Yeah.
Okay. Just feel like I didn't even know about it till I came to Germany.
This was the first place that I had it. But I think it's making an appearance.
Is it?
Across the world, or at least at least in the US.
As it should. It's so good.
It's so delicious. It's like it's kind of like a mix between broccoli stems, apples, and peas.
That's a very good description. I was going to call it a cabbage apple, but yeah. It's really nicely sweet and crunchy and fresh. Although it has a slightly sulphurous smell, doesn't it? That a little bit. Yeah. If I keep some that I've already peeled and prepped in the fridge, it gets a bit stinky in there.
Yeah.
I feel like I might just have to steal a tiny.
Would you like a whole chunk?
I'll just take this little stuff. Oh, it's good.
And then I have this persimmon.
Yeah, this was also only a recent discovery of mine when trying to find fruits that were kind of in season in winter. And this was always coming up as one of the main ones. It's really, really sweet, right?
It's super, super sweet.
Yeah.
So I'm probably only going to use a fourth of this. Although, actually, before I put this in the salad, I'm going to try it to see how we are.
But that would provide a nice contrast to the bitter elements like that.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah. So you peel yours?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I think there's already so much, because it has the peel, it's fine to eat, but then it kind of gets stuck in your teeth. And then you're just left with the memory of the peel of the persimmon instead of the taste of the persimmon.
Yeah.
So, but it's not necessary to peel it.
And you're just kind of doing little strips again.
Yeah.
I'm also pleased to finally find out how to pronounce it. I've been calling it a persimmon. Persimmon.
Oh, well, I always have to chuckle because the German name is Kaki.
Yeah.
You're like, nah. Kaki.
It is a wonderfully hilarious name.
Ooh, this one's super ripe.
Yeah, it looks really soft and juicy. Oh, I can smell the Galette.
How's it looking?
They're looking good. They're smelling very good.
All right.
Nice pop of colour that adds as well. Yep.
All right, and then lastly, I'm going to add a bit of beet, which actually my last vegetable addition. I like to grate my beet.
Raw beet. I don't think I have ever... I've certainly never prepped beet myself raw. I've always only ever cooked it.
Raw beet was kind of a very recent revelation for me because I didn't know you could eat it raw.
Yeah.
But apparently there are lots of vegetables that I didn't know you could eat raw, that you can eat raw.
Like what else?
I can think of none of them now.
Because now you're so used to eating them raw.
Because now I just eat them raw all the time. But beet was definitely one of those. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that this was a thing you could eat raw. And zucchini and pumpkin. No, not zucchini. Yes, zucchini, because I'd only ever cooked zucchini. But you can make like a shaved zucchini salad, which is really lovely.
Oh, really?
And you can do the same with, I don't know if all types of pumpkin, but a lot of pumpkin you can eat raw.
Interesting.
And it's really good.
Tasty?
Yeah.
Because I would think raw zucchini wouldn't necessarily... I think maybe the reason people would cook it would be to get some flavour into it, you know? But...
I almost like raw zucchini better than cooked zucchini.
I'm going to have to try this. So you're grating up a little bit of beet.
Yeah.
Oh, because this is this is like in prepared salads, isn't it? Like a lot of the, I've just realised that some of the bagged salads you can get,
like with grated
they
beet.
have grated beetroot in there.
But beet has like also just such a very earthy dirt flavor.
Yes.
That I find that when you grate it, it isn't as aggressive.
Okay, interesting.
Which is why I grate it instead of slicing it like the other things. All right. And
Looks beautiful.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking nice.
They're looking very nice.
All right. And I'm also going to grate a bit of cheese into the salad
Yay.
because everything is better with cheese.
Everything is better with cheese.
I'm just using Parmesan, but you can also use Manchego or other hard cheeses. I think even goat cheese would be nice. Feta. It's maybe a bit much cheese, but not when you mix it up.
That's no such thing.
All right, great. And I also want to add some walnuts.
Yes.
And I'm just going to very lightly chop them, and I'm not going to toast them or anything. I'm just adding them raw and untreated.
Lovely.
All right. So, I'll make a dressing.
Yeah, this is great. I feel like a basic dressing is an absolute must to have in anyone's cooking repertoire. I remember when I went off to university and my mum made me like a little book of basic things, and that was one of them. Yeah.
Do you still cook dishes from her book of basic things?
I do, actually. I think most of them I've internalized now and kind of forgot that that's where they came from in the first place. But it was very helpful. Do you have a bio bin here, or what do you do with your scrap?
I do have a bio bin. Yeah, it's this lovely small black trash can in the corner.
You have many a bin there. Very good.
Many bins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also really strange for me not to like go home where all the recycling goes into one bin. And you're like, where are the many bins?
All goes in one place.
Okay. So, put this here. And let's see what we've got. We don't need these things. We need that. Alright, so salad dressing. Mm-hmm. One thing that I'm really good at doing is not making enough salad dressing ever. So every time I make salad dressing, I make it and then I go, oh, this is not nearly enough, and then I have to do the exact same thing twice. So I'm going to try
to avoid that.
I'm going to try to just like make too much, and it will actually end up being.
Because it's also one of those things that is great to make too much of, because you can keep it and just shake it up and use it again anytime.
All right. So, I like to do a sort of 2-to-1 vinegar or oil to vinegar ratio.
Yeah.
And I also like using different types of vinegar in the salad dressing. So rice wine vinegar is usually my go-to. So I usually do a blend of rice wine vinegar and lemon. But I also, depending on my mood, will do white balsamic or white wine or apple cider.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I use balsamic vinegar.
For dressings, yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
I think I use it a lot to cook with, but probably not for dressings.
Yeah, most of what you can get in the store bores me. So I have not been lucky enough to have the famed balsamic vinegar the way it was supposed to taste. So
doesn't quite have the depth of flavor.
It does not quite have the depth of flavor. All right, so I like to add the oil last. So I'm going to start with a tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. And add...
Love your measuring spoons.
Oh, thanks.
That's great.
I stole them from my mom.
Hey, nice.
I think it was like, Mom, do you use these? I'm going to take them. I'm going to add half of a lemon. That's always... adding half of a lemon is always such a dangerous thing because, some lemons are much juicier than others. But I have found... Oops. That half a lemon is about a tablespoon.
Yeah,
give or take.
I discovered the same. Last Christmas I was so on it with prep because we were hosting family for the first time. And I was like, I'd planned all these drinks that I was going to make, lots of cocktails and lots of things that needed lemon juice. So I actually pre-squeezed a bunch of lemon. And had a jar of it just on hand, and in doing so had to realize how much a half a lemon was, because sometimes recipes would be like half a lemon. So I measured it out and it's correct. Yeah, I can confirm that.
We don't even need the internet.
We don't even need the internet this time. Just my ridiculous trial and error.
1 tablespoon of Dijon. I really like a mustardy dressing.
Yes.
Which is not everybody's cup of tea. So if you don't like a mustardy dressing, you don't have to put that much mustard in.
No, indeed.
I wish I had a smaller whisk.
That is, it's about the same size as your bowl.
I know.
I imagine it's going to fit really
it will
satisfyingly in there.
All right, and then for the sweet thing, I really, really love maple syrup. Because I find that granulated sugar is hard to dissolve, and honey, I know it's kind of a classic thing, but then everything just tastes like honey mustard chicken wings. And I don't know.
It's not quite as unctuous somehow.
Yeah, the maple has a depth and it hides a little bit. It's like the anchovies of sweet things.
That's what they should put on the jar.
The anchovies of sweet things.
Maple syrup, the anchovies of sweet things.
Okay, so I'm going to mix this up. That was half of a teaspoon of maple syrup. And I'm going to put salt and pepper in. I also like to be rather generous with the salt. So I'm I could have done this with my... It's going to be, let's say, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
And some black.
I'm not sure 1/4 of a teaspoon is a measurement, but is it on your spoon?
Yeah, I got 1/4 of a teaspoon.
No way.
Yeah.
I wonder if mine has a 1/4. I thought it only went. Oh no, it does. Yes, the little teeny one.
The little one, the little useless one.
Yeah, I never use. I'm like, that's no amount of anything.
And now I'm going to add my olive oil.
So is there a reason that you like to add the oil last?
Because it whisks better with all of the ingredients before you add the oil.
Okay.
And actually, I have forgotten the onion that I told you I was going to add.
A little bit of onion.
A little tiny bit of onion.
That would be sad if you got forgotten.
Okay. All right.
We're going to chop it.
I'm going to chop it.
Your way.
All right. So it was a whole onion. Now it's a half onion, and I've kept the tail bit of the onion. So you take your knife and you cut against, I guess, it's against the grain, nearly all the way to the tail. All the way down the onion.
That's what a nice sharp knife is very good
for it. So you can then sort of like fan out your onion, but it's still connected here. You can, but don't have to, also cut in this way.
If you want a
really fine onion. And then you cut down this way. And
beautiful.
You have really lovely, super tiny little onion pieces.
And all fingers are intact.
And you pull your fingers, and you don't have onion bits slipping around all over the cutting board.
It's a real annoyance.
I'm really into cutting onions efficiently so that I cry less when I cut them.
That's a good point.
All right, and to the dressing, I don't think we want all of that onion. I'm just going to have sort of a knife tip full of onion.
Nice.
And then I'm going to whisk it again, and now I will add my oil. So I like to have 2 different kinds of extra virgin olive oil. So I usually get a nice one for salad dressings, and then a fine one for cooking. And then I have one that can sustain higher temperatures.
Yeah.
So I have three types of olive oil. I will likely run out of my good olive oil while I'm making this salad dressing. I can see the end.
How much would you want to put in if you had enough at this point? Because I forget how much vinegar we put in.
We've got about 2. One. I don't always count lemon. It depends on how acidic the lemon is. So I always start with 1 tablespoon of vinegar and 2 tablespoons of oil. Yeah. And then I see what the lemon did to that. So actually, we do have 2.
Phew.
And I do have other olive oil if we need to make it stretch. Okay, let's taste it. That's very nice.
Good. First time's a charm.
And I made enough. Yes.
All you needed was the pressure of being filmed while you made your salad dressing.
Right? One can only do so many things wrong during the filming process. All right.
And the Galette's smelling good.
They're looking really nice. They're starting to get sort of golden brown on top. Let's see where we are time-wise. Ooh, so in a minute and 20 seconds, we can add our parcelly. So let me go and get that ready. I put this here where I don't forget it.
I might need you to check that sound one more time. I feel we've reached the 101 minutes that it said it was good for. No, it's still
going strong.
I keep doubting it, and it just keeps. Okay, I'll stop doubting it.
Well, better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So
I love the debris that a salad and dressing always creates. It's like, you know you've made a good salad when you have this mess left behind.
And it's such a colourful
mess. Like you could chuck that in a bowl and have another salad.
Would you want this salad? I don't know.
It depends on the day, how desperate I'm feeling.
All right.
So I want to talk a little bit about your book. Here it is. When did you have the idea or the desire to go from blog to book, basically?
Well,
there it is. A nice gentle alarm.
Isn't it? I picked
your waking up alarm?
Oh no, my waking up one is even more soothing than that.
Oh, that's nice.
I'll just set this for 10 minutes while I'm here, so I don't forget. Yes, I was coming up on 10 years of writing the blog, and I wanted something tangible to show for it, and I had this idea of conceptualizing this book that sort of summed up my philosophy towards cooking, and also was just a story, like a collection of stories about my journey towards learning how to cook, really. Yeah. And trusting myself and not worrying so much about whether or not something would be okay. Yeah. And I at the time had two friends living in the city. One of them has since moved away, who also had a friend who's an illustrator, and she did all the illustrations in the book, and another friend who is really good at graphic design. And so these, so nice, like, without these wonderful women, this book would not have appeared, because they were like, yeah, we believe in the project, it sounds really cool. And that's so incredible. So the three of us spent some time putting it together, and it was a really beautiful way for me to think about what I'd been doing for the last 10 years, and to sort of bring it to life in this, and then just in a physical way. Yeah, and in a beautiful project where you could bring in creative friends as well. I think that's so nice to have that opportunity to kind of create something like that together. Yeah, and I mean the book really, it wouldn't have been nearly as lovely or important to me if I had just done it by myself. So it's just like I think it's the illustrations, or like the beautiful way that it's laid out, is what makes it so special for me, because it's also, it's like a reminder of like people who are also willing to put in their time and creative energy and ideas to like just create something, and believe in a project that you've kind of started, and the fact that can garner passion from other people is always exciting. So it was a hard birth in some ways, because I wasn't sure how it was going to get published, or what the process was. But eventually, because I for a while, for a couple of years, was the editor of a literary journal in Berlin, and so I realized at some point, I was like, well, I know how to publish a book, because I've been doing it for the last 5 years. And so that was also, a really cool experience to just say, like, actually, I do have all of the skill sets. That's amazing. To like put this thing together. So So I've chopped this parsley now, and it was not a ton of parsley. It was just chopped. It's like about half a handful. And I don't need to wash my hands. I'm just going to get them dirty. And now I'm just going to put this I'm so parsley. Sorry, I totally messed that up and stopped the video. We were doing so well. It's because it's only on 15%, and then I tried to put the Energiesparmodus on, and then it stopped the whole thing. Anyway, what we've done is we've finished chopping the parsley, and we are adding it to the galettes. So, and I'm going to save just a little bit for some fresh green at the end. So those are about 10 minutes away from being done.
Perfect.
So I will just...
Hopefully our battery lasts us.
Hopefully the battery lasts us. And we'll just tidy up the kitchen a bit. And...
So are there plans for... Is the book something that you see like having a successor? Is there going to be more in that direction, or what are your kind of future plans with your food writing? Because I feel like you're doing other writing projects now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the book was also, I mean, just besides the fact that it was kind of like a summation of 10 years of writing You Drink Me, I feel like finishing it and publishing it allowed me to say, okay, to give my creative energy to other projects. I mean, like, admittedly, I've been really lax about writing blog posts recently. I mean, I think the last one I wrote was maybe in October. October. So, but it feels okay, because I think having the book out sort of made me feel freer to say, well, I want to get back to doing creative writing, which is, I mean, originally why I moved to Berlin 10 years ago in September. Was
that because it felt like a more creative hub where you could pursue that? It was,
I mean, a couple of reasons, but mostly I was in New York and I was working retail full-time, and I had health insurance, and having health insurance in the US is like such a good thing that I was like, I don't know how to leave my health insurance without leaving the country. So I was like, I don't know, I gotta
how bizarre that's a consideration.
I was like, I have to. So it just again, because I couldn't, I was really deep in a situation. I couldn't see how to get out of it besides just like completely changing everything. And New York was, I mean, I loved New York, but it was also wildly stressful. And so I mean, like, I hadn't intended to stay in Berlin, but
wildly stressful because of your particular situation, or is New York just a stressful place?
New York is just a stressful place. I mean, it was the most creative, like intensely creative I've ever been. I mean, I would just, walk down the street and hear poetry, which
sounds so cliche.
Doesn't really happen in Berlin. So I mean, I was writing a lot, and but I was also getting a lot of unpaid internships, and I was like, it's not going to pay my Metro card. So it was, I mean, because that was in 2009, and so there weren't a lot of jobs in writing, and if there were, it was unpaid, which I couldn't afford. And so I thought, well, if nobody is going to pay me to write, I'd rather not pay myself to write. And so I came to Berlin just sort of like to recalibrate and decide what I wanted to do next. And I never left. So
that does tend to be the outcome. I mean, obviously the cheaper living situation here was a huge draw for creatives. Sadly getting less and less the case, but it allows for much more time to be given to creative endeavors.
And I mean, I also found I started work in translation when I moved here, and it also felt nice to be able to use my skill set also in a professional capacity. So I was like, okay, well, I'm able to work in a creative field, and I'm also able to have the time to work on creative projects. So, but I mean, as then is the case, as I started getting more work doing translation, I wrote less and less. And so, so it's just like, now with the book being out, and especially during the pandemic and not having as much freelance work, I've had more time to write again. And so I think that's like, I think maybe the next project will be fiction instead of food nonfiction.
So. That feels like the direction of the...
But we shall see.
I mean, this might be another good year for dedicating to creative projects. Or the entire world might change, and we might be living in no recognizable system. Who can say?
also, I guess one of the things that I've sort of taken away from these last couple of months is just to approach life with a little less like rigid structure. Because it's like, you know, if I want to write fiction today, then that's good. Yeah. If I don't feel like writing fiction today, that's good. It's instead of just feeling pressure or feeling like you're not accomplishing enough. It's been, because I mean, I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself to achieve, and it's been really nice to say, well, surviving is actually really great right now.
Yeah. Like, and the fact that that's been a society-wide shift, because I think we were in a really nasty, verging on toxic place before, society-wise. It's the magic alarm. Of kind of like, you know, productivity is everything. What have you achieved? And people would judge you if you had a lazy day or if you hadn't done much.
Right.
And now, because everyone is in a situation where they can't be productive, everybody is congratulating everyone for just coping, you know, and doing whatever they can to cope. And in a way, that's what we kind of needed a bit more of all along, was just more understanding and being like, it's okay, it's all right to have that day when you don't do anything. And actually, it's really important for your health. So that's been a positive outcome, I think, for sure. Yeah. Is it the grand unveiling?
It is the grand unveiling.
So excited.
All right. So, here they are.
Oh, they look amazing.
Little Galette babies.
Oh, yes. I'm surprised that the parsley can take that much heat for that long and not like.
Me too, actually. Because I thought it was going to be much more wilted, which is why I saved some fresh stuff. Yeah. But I'm pretty impressed at how green that stayed.
Very. Oh, they look and smell amazing.
Well,
scattering.
Just scattering of green.
Beautiful.
And let's toss our salad.
Gorgeous bowl. More very nice kitchen equipment. Just coveting all of your things.
I really love beautiful things.
Yeah. This feels like a collection that you've built up quite organically over time. Is it? Or is that just a wonderful like fake impression you've given and actually you bought everything
at the same time?
At the same time.
No, most of my kitchen utensils, that's been a really organic build up. But the furniture, because so
you like have to.
Background context. My apartment burned down a year and a half ago.
Yes, that was the thing.
That was the thing that happened. So the furniture is all new and all bought at the same time. But but the kitchen utensils, I like things that tell a story and that, you know.
Like the spoon.
Like the spoon.
The spoon is incredible. Beautiful. Enough dressing?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's our salad.
Gorgeous. Yeah, so I think let's plate up one portion and then we can show people the beautiful entrecôte.
All right, and let's put those on something nicer.
Oh yeah! Wow, that's a great plate.
Oh, they're so buttery.
Oh, yeah.
Very buttery.
Too buttery.
Too buttery, you might say.
If anything, had to go wrong, quote unquote, being too buttery is definitely what we want.
All right.
Oh, because it's so crumbly.
Oh, you know what? We might not even fit two on one plate.
Go for it.
You think?
We can do it.
Ah!
Yeah.
I look a little. Hold on. I have a better idea. There we go.
Yeah,
there we
that's
go.
What we need.
That's what we need.
I'm glad we got to see the beautiful plate, but now you are no longer needed. Perfect.
No, that's much nicer.
Look at that.
So.
Gorgeous. And then to serve, we are just going to be cutting these into wedges, halves?
Wedges, quarters I think look the nicest.
Yeah.
So just
and then put the salad on the side.
quarter them, salad on the side.
And I am literally salivating right now, so we are going to say goodbye. It's been a long one actually, hasn't it? Really hope you've enjoyed cooking along with us. Liz, thank you so much again for having us, inviting us into your kitchen. This has been such a delight. Guten Appetit, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.